Alrighty, it's your boy Zxous, and we are back with another Goddess of Victory Nikke video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about something that I want to say the entire Nikke community is talking about right now, and that is Dorothy versus Litter. Now, if you guys do not know, Litter has been, since the beginning of the game, the best Burst 1 character, and obviously with Dorothy dropping, she has competition, or has just dropped off the tower. Now, obviously, no matter what, Litter is still a very good character, right? If she's not the best Burst 1 character, she just ends up being the second best Burst 1 character. If she remains the best, then she remains the best. But if she does get replaced by Dorothy, then she ends up being the second best Burst 1. She's still a very good character, right? I want to say Litter and Dorothy actually, even though they're both supporters, they have completely different jobs. You would actually be surprised. They have completely different jobs, because Litter's job is somewhat to actually support you and keep you alive, survivability wise, I want to say. While Dorothy's job is really just to like be an extra DPSer, really. Just like kind of enhance the damage of everyone. Now, Litter's technically doing the same thing on her burst skill. Oh, I went to something. Litter's doing the same thing on her burst skill, but hers is every 5 seconds when you use the burst skill, right? It's only for 5 seconds when you use the burst skill. And I believe her, yeah. Also, when you use her burst skill 3 times, then all allies will get the extra 10%. Well, on level 6 and 7, right? Depends on what level your Litter is, whatever. But, yeah. So, Litter is a character that, again, shines for very good reasons. The massive attack buff, even though it's only 5 seconds. But what really makes her shine is her second skill. Affects 2 ally units with the lowest cover HP, and cover HP recovers by 42% at level 6, whatever percent it is for you. Right? And essentially, she's the only character who can do it like this. I know Coco, my bad. Coco can do it as well, but it's not the same, right? Hers is the 2 allies with the highest cover, and hers is just like 42% fully being built. I believe Cacao's is all allies, but it's like a certain percent off her HP. Let me just double check. Right, it's not the same. It is the same like way it works, but recovers, yeah, of her HP, right? It's not of, like, Litter's is just 42% of your cover. She's healing the cover based on a certain percentage of her max HP, which is just worse, right? Because essentially, Litter's not healing it 100%, but she's not, like, restricted. Like, she's getting the full upgrade, when I want to say Coco is getting a portion of that, essentially. If that made sense. Hopefully some of you guys knew where I was going with that. But yeah, so that's why Litter was really the best character, or the best burst 1 in the game. But now Dorothy is a character that obviously is a very, very good character. How she works is a bit too insane. Now, she doesn't have any abilities that actually, I want to say, benefit you in terms of survivability. This girl is just all damage support, right? She's either just damage herself or damage support, right? Literally, I think the description of her is that she's a pilgrim that enhances other allies' attack, right? That's basically like Nikke's description of her, and it's a perfect way to describe her, right? Because this character is, like I said, a character that is supporting allies, right? Obviously, when the last bullet hits, when you're in the transform state, all allies get a massive damage increase to a certain part on an enemy, which is very good. And then also, she is reducing the cooldown of the burst skill by a certain amount, I want to say. Certain seconds, whatever your number is for you guys. Mine level 5, so it's 1.23 seconds. But whatever it is for you guys, she's lowering the burst skill cooldown by some numbers, right? So her, like, she is a support, of course, right? Her burst skill, she has the brand effect, which basically is a debuff that accumulates damage and re-puts it out after 10 seconds. And again, that is somewhat of a support move, because your allies are attacking into that accumulated damage. It would be a completely different story if she put the debuff and only she could do damage to it and it would work. But since all allies are doing that, all allies are, it's not really supporting allies, but it's supporting the team's, like, overall, I want to say, output damage, or how should I say this? Like, DPS. Right? Because if I put a debuff on an enemy and my other DPSs are putting all the damage onto that enemy, she's basically collecting that damage and she's gonna re-put it out, right? She's kind of doubling the damage. Not really, but she's essentially doing that, right? It wouldn't be exactly doubling the damage, but she's essentially doing something like that, right? Which is very, very good. Not to mention her second skill. again, it's just free damage, right? And she's a supporter, right? So that's why she's so crazy, because she's a supporter, but she was clearly meant to be an attacker, right? But she does support. So who would you say is the best burst 1 character? A character that kind of just does damage herself in terms of how her kit works and supports damage on your team, or a character who basically, I want to say, helps you insanely well with survivability and gives you an attack buff as well, but for like a very low time, right? And that's where it kind of goes there. I want to say both Litter and Dorothy are going to work great everywhere they go, right? It's not like, oh, Litter won't work somewhere and then Dorothy works there better, or Dorothy won't work somewhere and Litter works there better. They both work everywhere. And every single boss, every type of content in the game, both of them are fantastic picks, right? But like I said, it depends on what you would say is what you consider to be the best burst 1. If you want survivability because essentially Dorothy is kind of just like an attack buffer. She's not, but like, just hear me out. Her title would be like an attack buffer, and then Litters would be an attack buffer and a survivability supporter, essentially, right? But the damage that Dorothy does for a supporter will be very beneficial. Like I said, there's no I don't think I actually said this, but there are no burst 1 characters who do damage. None. There's not a single burst 1 character who does damage. None of them. They all either tank or supports or heal. That's it. So for you to have that extra DPS that you need, like Burst 2 already had freaking Guilty, right? Burst 2 already had Guilty. Your main DPS has really come from Burst 3. But Guilty was a character that also does insane damage, right? Insane damage for a Burst 2. Her and Nihilister, actually, both of them, they're characters that do insane damage for Burst 2, right? And again, in Burst 1, there was nobody here who really did damage like that, right? Honestly, the closest person to doing like insane damage was who? Miranda, maybe, right? Really? But she is like next level. There's nobody who could stand toe to toe with her in terms of damage for Burst 1. So having that extra damage will be very beneficial. Not to mention that she's going to be very, 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 very efficient, right? Because every other 10 seconds you're in her burst skill, and that brand debuff is being procced every other time as well. And it's a very, very good debuff. So for me, I would say personally, now this is not a factual statement what I'm about to tell you. I gave you guys the facts just now before, but what I'm about to tell you is in my opinion, right? My official opinion on who I believe is the best character, right? Like I said, it's could go either way, but I believe that Dorothy is better, right? I prefer Dorothy over Litter just because, like I said, the survivability from Litter is good, right? The rebuild cover is good. It is very good. But I think having that extra damage thing will just, the damage debuff, not damage debuff, but like the accumulated brand debuff will kind of just make runs easier, right? Kind of essentially wouldn't really need the survivability with this character in terms of just general content. Obviously with bosses, well, not even with bosses, I want to say, because this girl, in terms of I want to say based on your team, but I know there's been some testing already with her and Litter, like against the Modernia boss. I've seen some of those videos, and like it wasn't like, oh, one person always won. It was actually just kind of going back and forth, kind of why I made this video anyways. But essentially this character, like I said, is a cheat code. She's a cheat code against all types of enemies. In terms of wave clearing, she's no question going to be the best. Every other 10 seconds, she's going to be using her second skill 5 times. And it's a massive, deals 171% of attack as damage for free. For free, every 2 seconds, every other 10 seconds. 5 times every other 10 seconds, essentially. Right? And then the brand thing is literally taking damage from everybody on your team, putting it into like a box, and then like letting it rip after 10 seconds. It's very good. And then obviously the extra damage part too. I think I would prefer personally having this character and the damage support and the damage from her in general than just having someone who can rebuild my cover, right? Because essentially, if you're not fighting a boss, the cover is not really a problem, I want to say. Okay, I think we could all agree on that, essentially. Maybe. Let me know if you agree with that comment or that statement I just made. I would say if you're not fighting a boss, the cover doesn't really matter, because with Dorothy, Scarlet, Modernia, for example, heck, even Guilty, those 4 are more enough to wipe out mobs, right? Unless you're just like the difficulty is just not meant for you, right? Obviously, if you're 100k power and you go into a 200k power stage, it's a different story. But if you guys are evenly matched, I think this character will be very beneficial there. But let me know if you guys agree with that comment or not. That's just an opinion of mine. That's not an official statement. But yeah, I think I would say Dorothy is better than Litter, or I would say she's the best Burst 1 character. I could honestly say she's the best burst character, or best unit in the game, because I do consider my best character to be a character who benefits herself and the entire team. Right? I'm not somebody who will just say whoever does the highest number is the best character, right? That's why most people say Scarlet is, I want to say, because she hits the hardest in the game, which is fine, right? If you consider the best character to be a DP at the hardest hitting character, then that's fine as well. But I would say my best character in the game, or what I believe to be the best character in the game, is someone who can support themselves very well and also support the team very, very well. Right? So that's why Litter was essentially in the talk to being the best character as well. Not from me, I would never say Litter was the best character, but people actually consider Litter the best character in the game. So you guys let me know if you agree with me or not. Definitely share your opinions on who you think is better and stuff like that, and why. And yeah, let me click on her because I love her transform state. And yeah, you guys let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Later. Peace. Y'all stay blessed. And subscribe. We're close to 2K.